In this video, I'll be talking about being older, probably 50, 55, or even 60 with little to no money to retire on, and realizing that retirement is just around the corner. And this video will be about what you can do at this point in time. Now, if you're around 50 years old or thereabout and you realize that you have no savings or no money for retirement, then hopefully this video can help you to get to around $500,000 really quickly. And that way you don't have to retire broke or retire homeless. Now, just before we get into all this information, we'll be kicking this video off with a giveaway of $100. 4 lucky winners of $25 each, and all you have to do for a chance to win is to drop a comment below and then hop on over to my website and subscribe with your email address, as that's how we'll be announcing the winners every single week. And with that said, special shout out to all my returning subscribers. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the channel once again. I really appreciate the support. And if you are new here, my name is Eann, and on this channel I talk about ways to make money, ways to save money, ways to invest your money. I talk about bank accounts and credit cards and everything to do with personal finance. So if you like these videos and you like these types of topics, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I'll really appreciate it. It helps the channel out a ton. And also subscribe to the channel with all the notifications on. And that way you never miss the updates of when I post new videos, which is every single day on this channel. So at 50 or 55, you may realize that you have an income right now and you still have your job, so you're able to take care of yourself. However, once you hit 55 or 65 and you stop working and that income disappears, you won't have enough money to take care of all your expenses. And so you may get Social Security, or you may even have a 401k plan. But even with these, you may still realize that it still won't be enough money to maintain your standard of living. And this is where the problem comes in for a lot of people. Now, another problem is this mix is that you may have, let's say, mortgage, or maybe you have other consumer debt. Maybe you have car payments or credit card debt or personal loans, and those will stay with you even when your income goes away. And that is another reason why Social Security and your 401k may not be enough money to take care of you after you retire. Now, I'll talk about investing later on in this video and how you can actually invest the money now quickly to have extra money in retirement. But first of all, we have to do a few things, and some of this may be obvious, but first of all, you need to think about your income. So there are 3 things that you need to do here. You want to start earning more money, because if you don't earn more money, then you won't be able to invest any money, and you also won't be able to pay down on your debts faster. Now, at age 50 or over, it may not be a good time to go back to school, or some people may not want to switch jobs because they've been working in a field for many decades. So one of the better options here is to simply ask for a raise at your current job, as it doesn't hurt to ask. And if you can do it, you can also look at getting a second job or a side hustle, or even switching jobs altogether if you can find another job that will pay you more money. The more income you have at this point in time, the better it is for you, and the easier it is for you to pull this all off. Now, the next thing is your expenses. So if you're realizing that you're closing in on retirement and you don't have a lot of money saved or no money saved, you're gonna have to start cutting back, and you need to be really honest with yourself. And some examples of things that you may want to cut back on will include anything that is not absolutely necessary for you to survive on. Now, depending on your financial situation, you may have to take some drastic steps here. So maybe you have to rent a cheaper apartment if you rent a place to live right now, or maybe you may have to get rid of some of the luxuries that you have right now, like cable TV or newspaper subscriptions. And a helpful strategy is to look at your fixed expenses and your variable expenses. So the fixed expenses will be things like probably your rent, which is a fixed amount that doesn't really change. And your variable expenses will be other bills that go up and down depending on the month or the usage. Now, you can figure this out, but the main goal here is to ensure that your income or that your expenses are lower than your income. And ideally, you want your expenses to be less than 70% of your income. So if you can't achieve that by simply cutting back on your expenses, then you need to find a way to make more money so you can have at least 30% of your income to move on to the next step. So let's now break this down into different categories, and we will have 3 categories. So let's say the people in category 1 are people who never invested throughout their lifetimes. Maybe they invested or they took part in a 401k plan, but they didn't make any other investments on their own, but they also don't have any debt. Now, let's also say that category 2 are people that have good debts, but they also weren't investing, and they also don't have a lot of money saved up for retirement. And when I say good debts, I'm talking about things like mortgages, where you have debt on some asset that is actually appreciating in value. Now, the third category will be people that don't have any savings, that never invested, and they also don't have any good debts or assets like real estate, but they have a lot of liabilities like car payments, personal loans, credit card debt, student loans, and their financial situation is just absolutely messy. Now, if you're around 50 years old, then you have roughly around 10 to 15 years before you actually retire. If you think about it, 10 to 15 years is actually a good deal of time. You could actually build some wealth by investing, and you can even purchase a home and pay it off in 10 to 15 years. However, this is definitely not going to be the easiest of tasks and will require a lot of consistency. So you've identified your category, and now you've identified what you need to be doing to have that 30% or more in disposable income where you can invest it. And so now the next step here is to ensure that you're meeting the match of your 401k. So whatever your employer is giving to you for free in a 401k, you want to match that. And then the next step is you want to max out your Roth IRA. And at this point in time, you can actually make additional or the catch-up contributions, which I think at this time is around $7,000 in total per year. If you're married and you're doing this with your spouse, then this means you guys can invest double that amount. So you can invest around $14,000 per year, and that way you can actually catch up. Now from here, we can do some simple math and we can use one of these investment calculators. And so if you're married and you and your spouse are both over 50 and you're contributing $7,000 each to your IRA or Roth IRA per year, in 15 years, you'll get to 65, which is the age of retirement. And usually in a Roth IRA, depending on what you're investing, of course, you can get returns of 8 to 12% per year, sometimes more. But let's work with the lower number, which is 8%. And this is your typical returns from a Roth IRA. Now, if you're in your 50s and you're able to make $60,000 per year or more, which is also less than the average, because 75% of people at the age of 50 make around $93,000. And this was based on the numbers from last year. And the average is just around $77,000 at the age of 50. So if you're able to get your expenses down and save 30% of that salary of $60,000 per year, this means that you have around $18,000 per year in free money that you can invest. So with you and your spouse combined, you guys can invest this $14,000 in a Roth IRA with a return rate of only 8%, or with getting a return rate of only 8% in 15 years, you guys would go from $0 to $359,000. In 15 years, you would have contributed around $210,000. However, you would have made over $135,000 in returns from this investment. And if you're making closer to the average of $77,000 per year, or even in that 75% of people over the age of 50 that are making $90,000 and over per year, you will still have more money to invest after taking care of the IRA, and you can move on to some other investments. Point here is that you can move from having $0 in savings or investments at the age of 50 to almost $400,000 in just 15 years, which can be paired with your 401k. Now, something else to add here is that when you open your IRA account or your Roth IRA, you'll be able to choose the investments that are inside. And if you don't know much about using these investments, what you can do is you can, of course, hire a financial planner, or you can choose a target date fund, and that target date will be your retirement goal. And this way, the investments will be adjusted to the risk level, because as you get older or closer to retirement, you want safer investments, which would include, for example, more bonds rather than more aggressive and risky investments. Now, if this all sounds a bit intimidating, you don't really need a lot of money to start here. You can start with as little as $1,000, sometimes even less depending on the brokerage that you use. So you guys can go out there and you can check all the different brokerages that you have available to you today, which will include Vanguard, TD, Ameritrade, M1, Fidelity, Merrill Edge, Betterment, Charles Schwab, Wealthfront, and you have a lot of options here. Now, if you're in the next category of people who do have some debt, then what you want to do is you want to modify the amount that you invest. So for instance, instead of investing that full 30% off disposable income, you should instead invest only 15 to 20%. And then the next 10 to 15% of that money, you should put that towards these debts. And this should be debts like your student loans, your mortgage, paying off any cars that you have. And by the age of 50 or afterwards, if you have a mortgage or student loan debt, you shouldn't really have that much longer to pay on these debts by that point in time. You'll probably have 5 years, if that much, so you can really speed up the process here and get these paid off a bit faster, and that way you can then move all your money into your investments. Now, if you're in the category of people that have a lot of debt, then what you want to do is you want to use the debt avalanche method, which means that you would pause these investments and only invest probably 5% of your income, and the next 25% you want to put it towards your debt. So what you want to do here is you want to make the minimum payments on all your debts, and you want to find the debt that is or that has the highest interest rate, and then you want to put all the money that you can find on that debt until it's paid off, and then you want to work your way down to the next debt that has the next highest interest rate, and that way you save on interest payments and you clean up this debt much faster. Now, after cleaning up all this debt, all the credit cards or all the personal loans, then you can start using all the disposable income that you have to invest. Now, in addition to this, the more debt you actually have at this age range, the higher your income tends to be, because if you didn't have a high enough income, then you wouldn't have access to all these types of debts. You wouldn't have all these payments, all these loans, and all this money in credit card debt. So if you can clear that up really quickly, you will have a lot of money at your disposal to invest, which will help you to turn around your entire financial situation and have lots of money available to you when you get to 65 or the age of retirement. So at this point in time, it's not really about getting rich. It's just about building enough wealth where you can maintain the same standard of living after retiring. And if you're the average person over the age of 50 years and you're making $70,000 to $90,000 per year, you can definitely pull this off if you put the work in. Now, it may not be easy, but you can definitely pull this off. So with that said, I want you guys to comment below and let me know what you think about this strategy. And if you've been in a similar situation, I want you to comment below and let me know how you worked it out. Now, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. All the best with investing and getting your finances together. And I will see you guys tomorrow in the next one.